are live. We are here with Mr. Jesse James Figueroa. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure if it's Figueroa, if it's Jess James Music, which of the combinations and names it's supposed to be. I'm just rolling with all the iterations I found on the internet. But it's truly a pleasure to be here. This is Perspectives. It's been a minute, but we're back. Unfortunately, it's going to be just myself, Holden Stephan Roy, here tonight, holding it down as Littyyy Bro Flacko was unable to join us. But this is the show we do at end of the week over here, where we go through the lives of interesting people such as Mr. Figueroa. And we like to start the show off with a little bit of how the show came to be, and it actually all kind of ties back into the same very Littyyy Bros project that you were involved with back in the day. At one point, y'all had that mixed up by Merker Miyagi up in Montreal, who happens to be the homeboy. So he had shared that over on Facebook. I saw it. I ended up, catching the vibe of the album. We did a little review, which led to an interview. That interview led Flacko to kind of push this direction of the show at end of the week, and has kind of been on this vibe of introducing me to New York City, the culture, end of the week vibes, and it's been this whole exploration into this universe that is far different than anything I come from and what I've seen. In a lot of ways, you could say I've encountered a lot of moments where people have said to me, nah, I mean, and the truth is I very rarely nah what they mean. So with that, it really is a pleasure to have you here. I have listened to a fair bit of you rapping at this point, just in the general. I've seen you on the end of the week Zoom freestyling off the dome, and it's ridiculous. I've seen your talent, your artistry. I know you do the production. I know you do the mixing. You kind of handle like a lot of things. You like a top tier one out there with it. So it's really a pleasure to have you here. But with that,
Thank you.
to start this off right, could you just, I guess, introduce yourself a little bit, but tell us where you're from and the way Flacco would put it, where your parents are from. And that would be a good place to start it before we open it up with our opening question.
All right. My name is Jesse James Figueroa. I'm from the Bronx. I was born in East Harlem, though. Both my parents were born in Puerto Rico, but migrated to New York. My dad spent his earlier years in the Bronx. My mom's in East Harlem. My dad moved to East Harlem when they were both in junior high school, and that's how they kind of met each other. So they've been together for a long time. And yeah, I consider myself a uptown New Yorker, pretty much East Harlem and the Bronx.
That's super cool, and it's mad helpful. So you were coming from the Bronx at the beginning part, and that's important for the real opening question, which is a little bit of a story. And when it lands, you can answer it, and we're gonna definitely get to know you a little bit better as we go through your life a bit. So this all starts with my girlfriend, and she's washing the dishes one time, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song on her phone. I got a feeling, ooh. She's vibing and she's dancing and she's doing her thing, and I look at her and I start thinking to myself, when the fuck did this song become chores music? Because if you think about this track and you run it back 10, 11 years, this is like the middle of the night, everybody's faded, super turn up anthem. It's like the happiest moment of the night. It was even the happiest moment for kids and shit. It was like a party vibe. And then all of a sudden, 10, 11 years goes by. We all get a little bit older in life. The song, it doesn't change at all because it's a song. They don't really change. But we as people evolve so much that the context of the song's role that it plays in our life is now flipped from something like the party vibe to the I'm doing dishes, I'm doing some cardio, I'm working out, I'm doing some chores. And I started to realize how, as we get older, we kind of use this kind of party fun music from back in the day, and we kind of listen to that when we're doing the more boring things to bring ourselves back to that place. And it got me thinking about how, as artists, we're all on these journeys, and these evolutions continually happen. And when we think about the story of us as artists, we often only ever started at this place of like adolescence. Like you watch the interviews, you listen to people talk about it, and they'll say stuff like, oh man, I fell in love with hip hop when I was 11, or I started writing rhymes when I was 13, and it's like all of that is true, and it's a very powerful part of the story, but it's definitely not the beginning of anybody's musical journey. In fact, music's one of those things that's always around us. Like if you run that all the way back to when you were born and you got popped out, there was likely a song playing in the room already being absorbed into you from that moment onwards. So like, I know this is like it's super impactful because I can remember being like 4 or 5 years old in Montreal. in the apartment. My dad's got the gray boxes, these like amps and preamps and radios and tape decks and everything strung together with wires going out to the speakers on all around, giving us this surround sound feel. He'd be busting his Led Zeppelin tapes and things like that in the daytime. At nighttime, though, it was like the club mixes and shit straight from the clubs, like live radio stuff. My mom's was more of the love songs and the musicals, all kinds of different vibes. But all that to say, these things kind of melded together in this world of sounds I was listening to outside of me having any control of any of it. So it was like this whole soundscape I was exposed to. So I was hoping, Mr. Jesse James Figueroa, you could bring us back to being the youngest Jesse James Figueroa you remember being, and tell us a little bit about what it sounded like to be you before you had any control over the music in your life and some of the earliest musical memories you have.
Wow, that can go either way, because it was like my parents, they're both Puerto Rican, but they're hip, so they from the city. So it could be anything from Cool and the Gang to Grand Combo or something, you know what I'm saying? Or some Tito Puentes or something like that. Or it could be Joski Love, Pee Wee Herman, or so it's very parallel on my end, you know what I mean? Just because the way I was raised. So it was like if I was in my grandmother's house, I know I was gonna hear some Grand Combo or something like that. But
Right.
if I was at home, with moms and pops, some Cool in the Gang or some Al Green or some smooth shit gonna come on.
And was y'all how were you all listening to music back then? Like, were y'all like basically playing the radios? Was it tapes, vinyls? Like, what was the kind of vibe of how y'all was bumping it? Was it a big part of your life growing up?
Yeah, it was kind of, around these times, especially being it's holidays, it was super party time. But my grandmother actually had an 8-track tape for a long time. It was like an 8-track with a tuner, AM FM tuner with the record player on the top.
Right.
So she'll either play a record or pop in a 8-track.
Nice. And were you like interested in music when you were young, or was it just kind of something that was around you?
I was always interested in music, and it was really the influence really came from my sister because my sister actually was the one who was writing before me because she's older than me, obviously. So it really came through my sister.
So like when you were growing up, she was already writing and making stuff, or like so that was already kind
She
of.
was she wasn't recording, but she was already writing rhymes. She had a book of rhymes that I used to steal and try to rewrite them and change her name to my name and
Hold
shit
on.
like that.
You saying you straight up when you was like young, you jacked your sister's rhyme book and kind of stole her
Hell
rhyme?
yeah,
That's
yes
awesome.
I did,
I respect that.
yes I did.
But that's cool still. So you're saying like since time you have memories of being influenced by somebody writing rhymes and kind of putting it in your face. So
Absolutely.
you've been exposed to so that's like big, right? Because where I'm from, Montreal, some people had that experience. Most people did not have an experience like that. So it's mad nifty. What's it like? So like when we hear about growing up in New York, being surrounded by hip hop, like that's just the vibe to us. So like, can you tell us a bit about what that experience is like when you're young and just kind of being immersed into this culture that's kind of around you?
I mean, it goes from everything to being at school and the way you dress and the sneakers you got on, and then the summertime and going to the parks and seeing which DJs is out there, and just being stuck and people just dancing and block parties and like that was. Let me tell you something, man. That was the old New York, man. Block parties every summer. You go to every block. You just go from block party to block party. Even the carnivals would be crazy. They'll block the street off and have a little carnival with like a Ferris wheel and all them janky rides that you could probably get killed on, but them shits is fun as hell.
Say where, like in the middle of the streets.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really cool. Like I see Danny agreeing in the background. Souls is popping up, confirming. Yo, that's like we used to have those things in the malls come through, but like to me, it's wild to think about in the middle of the streets having a bunch of carnival rides and constant parties. Cause like, yeah, no, you're the first person to bring that up in anybody I talk to.
Oh yeah, all the street carnivals, that was everything. You could do everything. They even had the little gambling things. We used to play Chuck-a-Luck. Like it was dope. So
That's
you could play anything from the darts and getting a stuffed animal to gambling a couple dollars on the dice games, and it was so dope. It was that's a different vibe right there. That was a whole different thing, man.
Man,
This
that's
is like early 90s, mid 90s, when it was super dope.
how old were you around then?
I was about 14, 15, 16, around those ages.
And at this point, so like, when do you start getting into like rhyming and stuff yourself?
When I started really getting into it was about 15, when I decided this is like what I want to do. I want to be a fucking rapper. I want to be an MC. This is what I want to do. And I just started writing and writing. And I had these dudes that lived across. Well, first off, I lived in East Harlem with my grandmother on 109th and Lexington. And across the street was this dude that he had like a little deal back in the days, and it was cool. He was pretty successful. It wasn't nothing too crazy. Made a couple dollars, invested into some equipment, and just started pulling us out off the street and going to his crib to record and shit. And that was kind of my start. And then it was like, he gathered up about six of us, and then took us all to like the professional studio down on like 28th, 29th Street by the Madison Square Garden. That's
Right,
where all the major studios used to be at back then.
right. So you're like young. You're exposed to hip hop because your sister's writing. Are you like avid, like when you're like going through school and stuff? Are people rapping around you too? Are your peers into it, or is it just kind of like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody's rapping. Somebody's on the lunch table making the beat. There's battles going on in the lunchroom. That was really where it happened, in the lunchroom. The lunchroom was everything. You know, Going through your classes, you wait for lunch, and everybody, what's up? What you got today? You know what I mean? And battling was different back then too. It wasn't more like the way it's structured today. It was just more of like who got the flyest rhymes. Who sometimes it was who got the most rhymes. Who got more rhymes than the next nigga? Like I could keep spitting, you running out of rhymes. You know. So it was that kind of thing back then. It wasn't so more I'm trying to rip your head off battle like the way it is today, which I love. You know what I mean? Not saying it like that, but it was just a different. It was just a different approach.
no? I totally appreciate that. Um, so like back then, were you also involved in other stuff? Like were you into the drawing arts and things like that? Were you into dancing? Any of that kind of vibes?
I mean, everybody danced in the hood. You know what I mean? You had to have a little something, you know what I mean, to go to the parties and shit. But I wasn't like a dancer, nah. And I dabbled with graffiti, but nah, I wasn't really into super drawing. I got into graphics and things like that a little later on, but nah.
So basically, you run it. You're a fan of everything. Then you decide what like makes you decide I'm gonna be a rapper. Like, how do you have that like specific moment?
I don't know. Honestly, I think it was just the shit I was around. I was around a lot of dudes that was already rapping too. I left that part out too. I was around a lot of rappers that were older than me. I was about 14, 15. They already 18, 19, 20.
Hmm.
And, I started just hanging out with them a lot. Because when you're younger, some of us, we hung out with the older dudes, you know what I'm saying? And we was in the projects with them.
Right.
So it was like, that's kind of where I got the influence from.
And then you start rapping, and it's kind of more
And
like
I'm like, I want to do this because they was doing it. They was making songs. They was going to the studio. And I would just kick my rhymes to them, and they like, yeah, just keep writing. You're gonna get better. You're gonna get better. And one day they was like, come on, you going with us?
right. No, that's dope. So you basically start writing. You're improving. You're surrounded by a bunch of older folk who are kind of helping you get more structure with it, teaching you what's up. You end up getting brought down to the studio and start recording stuff for real reals. And all this is while you're still a teenager, right?
Yeah, this is all teenagers.
Yeah, that's wild
This is
still.
what 90, 96, 97.
So you're basically a teenage rapper in the era of the golden era of all of that stuff happening.
Oh yeah,
That's
oh
wild.
yeah.
And so you're coming
Yeah.
through, you're like going down to the studios. And kind of what happens after that? So like what happens once you start recording a bit?
I just started getting my feet wet. Really, it wasn't like it wasn't spectacular. I was just learning. You know what I mean? It was all learning process at that point. It wasn't really like I was the dopest already. I was just learning how to spit 16s. I was just writing 48 bars and no chorus. And they was like, nah, you got to break it down like this. So they're teaching me how to break down verses and just create hooks. So it was more of a learning stage at that point for me, you know.
So how long does that phase last as you're going through it? And while you're going through it, are you like witnessing anything cool? Do you have any like experiences from that time that you found were like super noteworthy? Because keep in mind, what you may find something mundane. This is like your story, right? So whatever you tell us is kind of like putting it out there into the world.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, no. So like I was saying, it was more of a learning experience at that point. So then now this is 98. I'm gonna go to I started going to this radio show called 88 Hip Hop. It was on Houston and Broadway. That's where I met Poison Pen there. I met Sarah Connor there. I met Breeze Ever Flowing there. I met Lifelong there. I met a lot of the underground, staples of, that we know. I met pretty much all of them down there. And this is like way before EO Dub.
Right.
So those are some of my best times. That was when it was dope, when everybody was ciphering, and it was like, the radio show was dope, but it was like after the radio show when it was really the shit. Everybody's outside ciphering, smoking, sipping their 40s. That was when motherfuckers was still sipping 40s and shit. And yeah, those was dope times for me.
So you would be out there with Poison Pen and them do the radio show, which was that like a freestyle show, and then you go out and continue to freestyle.
It was a variety of hip hop show. It was, they played music, they did battles on air, they had like b-boys out there. It was one of the first video website radio shows. And it was like mad glitchy because it was like so new. But it was like they was the first with the videos
Yo,
that was doing hip hop.
that's really cool. That's cool that you were like a part of that.
Yeah.
So you basically involved in innovating what ends up being all what we're doing today, if you think about it. Um, but like, so kind of what happens then? So you're doing the radio shows with them, you're connecting with them. It's kind of on that, I guess, a vibe of just y'all living out the experience. It's more about the rapping or anything, just being there.
Yep.
And how long does that phase go on for?
Uh it went on for about another year. Then I kind of dipped off for a while. I had some life shit going on. And 99 and 2000, I really wasn't around music like that, straight up.
Right.
So, moving forward, EO Dub, that's when that was like the second time I found some shit I fell in love with that was like so dope. And they was at the Pyramid Club at this time.
Right.
And that shit used to be fucking packed. When I tell you it was so hard to get on that list, you had to be there super early just to get a good spot on the line.
Right.
And it was, it was gritty too. It was no holds barred. It was like, ah man, super bars.
So when is this? This like 2000-ish era? Like when do you encounter EO?
2000 for me, it was 2003.
So EO Dub's been around for a couple of years now. It's a little established, and then
They started in, I think, 2000.
that's what I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they started in 2000.
So they start there. They're running it. How do you find out about them?
Um, Actually, a friend of mine, female friend of mine, that it's actually my boy's wife. It was when they first got together. She had just came home from college, and she was telling us about her boy Jason that ran this open mic downtown, and we need to go check that shit out. It's every Sunday, and I'm like, Sunday, like and they're like, nah, nigga, you need to go check this shit out. And I went and fell in love with that shit. I didn't even get to meet him that night because it was just so crowded and so much going on. Like it was a different vibe. These venues used to be fucking packed front to back, like every week.
And like, what? So tell us a bit about how the EO Dub experience was back then. Like when you show up, what was the open mic like?
First off, these guys gave you an intro that was like the best shit you've seen, and he's like, "Oh my god, this show is crazy," and the open mic hasn't even started yet. So it would be that first. So they already have you hyped. So by the time they already call the names, everybody's like ready to go.
Right.
And it was just a different vibe. You could smoke in the venues back then. So everybody's in there smoking. This shit is cloudy. And you would just catch some of your favorite rappers just on a humble in there all the time.
That's really cool. So you start like participating in the open mic. Do you like kill it at first, or does it take a while to catch your rhythm?
Nah, I did all right. I ain't kill it. And it was like, yo, shorty, come back. Da, 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 da. And that was the thing with them too. They would coach you, you know what I mean? Even like through you going through the open mic, they give you pointers and shit like that.
Right.
So that shit was gladiator school for hip hop, man. Like that shit built a lot of MCs, man. A lot of strong MCs came out the dub. A lot.
Oh, it's fair. I've heard a lot of people say that. Basically, anybody I've talked to who's heard of the dub has the same feeling about the dub. So I'm definitely believing you about that. And so you start getting involved as a participant. Are you also still recording music at this point? Do you start to take your stuff more seriously, or are you still kind of just, running with the dub and that's kind of it?
Nah, at that point, see, this the thing. At that point, I'm starting to get more into it, and they actually started letting me record at their studio. They had a studio called the Dojo.
Right. That was like when End of the Week like was kind of being a label for a minute, right? If I'm not mistaken, and
Yeah,
producing content and whatnot. So you went through there.
yeah. Nunzio ran the. Shout out to Nunzio. Nunzio ran the studio.
Right.
He was the main engineer there, and them guys just invited me with open arms, and allowed me to just do my thing. And I got in there as much as I could.
Right. And so you're recording over that era, and a lot of that stuff I think is even you can find a bunch of that. I'm pretty sure on the SoundCloud for End of the Week. Like there's like stuff spanning a very long period of time.
Oh, absolutely. That catalog is ridiculous.
Absolutely, and it holds up today. Like I never heard of End of the Week before 2020. That was when. Well, I mean, I'd heard of it, but not really heard of it because like it's in Montreal, but I hadn't really heard of it. So like, when I started listening to a lot of the older music, as I talked to people like Big Zoo and Nunzio, and listening to the Three King stuff, and but you came up all over. It's impossible to not come across Figueroa all over this experience and stuff, and then just listening to you over the ages is really cool. But it's cool to like see that you got welcomed into that environment, and it kind of created like, I mean, the art you're creating today is really amazing. So it's like the fact that that environment got fostered you to be able to create in that point in life and reinvigorate that spark into you is a powerful testament to what the dub brings to the table.
Amen.
So like basically you're recording at that point. Are you getting into videos and stuff then? Like how are you promoting your music? What's like the actual experience of being an artist in New York at that era like?
At that point, it wasn't even Catch wasn't even heavy on the video game yet. It was more so going out, and going to different spots other than EOW. You know what I mean? And
Right.
going to different places. You know what I mean? And letting your face. You know what I mean? Even if you're not going to perform, just to go, just to be out there. You know what I mean? And be with the community. That's what that. It was about that shit.
Right.
You had to be outside. You know.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's still pretty relevant actually today, wherever you're at. The more visible and present you are, the better you're probably going to integrate into it. So like how long so as this point's going on, are you releasing projects or is it like singles? Like how does that process working for you?
Um, I'm actually putting out mixtapes. Everything was still physical at this point.
Right.
It wasn't too many it wasn't no streaming. It wasn't too many sites other than like MySpace and little shit like that. But as far as everything else went, Yeah, everything was physical CDs. You know what I'm saying? I was just making CDs myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Going to the pressing and getting them shits pressed out and hitting the spots up and giving my shits out. I wasn't even selling them at this point. I was just giving them out.
That's dope. So I guess that's was that the normal move? You would give them out at first and then move to a point where you started selling them?
Yeah, and yeah. At some point, but in the beginning, it was just me giving them out. You know what I mean? Performing. If they like them, give them a CD. You know what I mean? Walk through the crowd, giving CDs out.
It's definitely a good flex though, because it's memorable stuff. Um, so you were performing a lot during that era.
Every week, at least twice a week.
How were you finding shows?
Just word of mouth, you know. Again, just being outside and networking with people and just finding shit, you know. Like, yo, they got a show going on over here. You know what I mean? I stop through, talk to whoever's running it, or see if I know somebody that knows them and try to get in.
That's fair. So at what point do you like start to get involved with battle rap?
I never fully got into battle rap. I battle rapped. Yeah, I dabbled in it, but that was more through Flacco and Penn and them.
Right. So like the
You know what I
opportunity
mean?
came.
And God bless and PH and and Sarah. That was more their circuit, and I used to just run with them all the time.
Right.
But that was their shit. You know what I mean? I would never claim it. You know what I'm saying? I battled rap a couple times. I battled for grind time maybe 2 or 3 times. Battled for a few other leagues, but I never was a battle rapper like that.
Oh, that's fair. So you've always just kind of stuck with the music thing.
Yeah, that was always my main. You know what I'm saying?
So as the late 2000s kind of close up, what kind of happens next in the story for you?
Now I'm developing my engineering skills through hanging out with Nunzio all the time. So that's how I start becoming an engineer, and then I start pretty much start working in the dojo with Nunzio.
Right. So you got to like work with Nunzio kind of next to him and like learning his tricks, not tricks, but like his skills, absorbing that, but while also having access to the gear and whatnot to kind of work on your own stuff, but work with other people.
Yep,
And
and make some money along the way. You know.
I mean, that's definitely very helpful. I mean, engineering is a fucking lucrative skill. Um, but like, as Danny's saying, at this point, you started hosting the dub.
No, that didn't happen till damn. What was that? I like to say '09, maybe no, maybe 2010.
Oh, fair enough. So you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember the exact year, but that was a little later on. You know, this is still early 2000s when I'm just getting in there. You know what I mean? I started working with them, but the hosting came on a little later. I
Right.
would co-host with them every now and then when they was doing events, but yeah,
And so, are you participating in the eardub challenge and things like that as well?
yeah, I did that. I did that a whole lot.
Did you ever win?
Won quite a few times.
That's dope. Did you ever like do the world champions?
Nah, I ain't get to do the world champions. That was before my time.
Mm, fair enough. Um, so when you're like running through this like era and you're learning to engineer, um, I guess tell us a bit about that era. Like tell us some of the stories of it.
What, like the challenge eras?
Yeah, like just as you're like learning, as you're going, well, just throughout the 2000s, right? You're in the 2000s now. Like tell us a bit about like some of the stories of that time.
Wow. Let's see. I got a funny one. It was a challenge of champions. It was me. I think it was Solomon. PH. Blind Fury. I think that was it. And we get to the we get to the grab bag round, and God bless Majesty decides he wants to do the grab bag round blindfold. So he picked up. He's going through the items, going through the items. He picks up a box, shook it. He said some shit. I don't know what's in it. I'm about to open it, and we tried to stop him, couldn't stop him. But he took a bite. It was a fucking doggy treat,
That's amazing.
and he bit it and was like, "Oh, what's this? It tastes like a dog treat." Yeah, that shit was crazy.
That's amazing. So basically, you were participating around with all the legends, and so you're like, you really got trained by like the best out there.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of comes happens after this era then? So you're going through the challenges, you're releasing your mixtapes, you're kind of hustling that. You got the engineering thing going on. You're kind of involved with the adob. Life is kind of progressing for you. Are you ever doing anything like touring or branching out like that?
We actually not even yet. I hadn't even started touring yet. I was already doing shows in different towns, but it was never no real tour. It was just a circuit of different things, you know what I mean? And everybody used to go to all the different circuits, going up from maybe Boston down to like North Carolina.
Right. So,
So there was a lot of spots that used to get bounced from back then. But it wasn't no real tour thing. But then at that point, after the challenges and all that, that's when I started hosting. You know, the guys took a break for a minute and I stepped back and needed somebody to start hosting. So I started hosting.
so tell us a bit about what it's like to be a host for End of the Week.
It's fun. Sometimes it could be a headache. Um, it's an experience. You get to deal with different personalities. You know, you definitely get to hear every different type of artist you can hear. And yeah, and you know, I did a lot of double duties too. So it would be nights I'm hosting and DJing. So
So
that
like,
was fun.
what's the responsibilities of a host, and who are your co-hosts? Like, who are the other people that took over with you?
In the beginning it was me. Then I had Majesty. So then it was me and Majesty. Then it was me, Majesty, then AP. Then I started DJing and Baxter came in. And then I was DJing for a little while. It was Baxter, AP, Majesty. Then I stepped off for a while.
And when did you get into DJing?
I always DJ. I'm not like a super scratch master, but you know, I can spin some records. And I've been doing that since I was younger as well.
Like, when did that start? Though, like, you were young. Like, how, like just like opportunity appeared, or was there like a decision? Like, I
I
want to be a
mean,
DJ.
in the hood, you always had that one or two dudes that had DJ equipment in their crib, and that's where everybody would go chill at. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. So you just get exposed to it, and then
Yeah, it was just there. It was accessible. You know,
no, it's
we always had that one dude that made beats. We always had that one dude that was a DJ. You know what I mean? Pretty much, it was always about two, three, or four dudes in the hood that rap. You know what I mean? In your direct vicinity, and that's in every. You know what I mean? Every neighborhood. It's always a few niggas that rap. But it was like everybody, it wasn't so saturated, you know. And the beat makers, you had to really be knowing how to make beats back then. It wasn't just, you know, it wasn't like a compute like with the computer. It makes it a lot easier now. But back then, you had to really. It was a skill.
I find it interesting how you kind of describe it all like crews. What I'm discovering in my city is all the rappers know all the rappers, but they don't know all the other people. All the beat makers know all the beat makers, but don't know the other people. All the b-boys, they have a whole community, I found out, and I didn't even know they existed until like a year ago. Apparently there's a whole DJ scene I never heard of also. So I don't know how it got so segregated. While it's super saturated, I find it's also very segregated right now, in the sense that these different groups of people are not really congregating with each other in any real way. Maybe it's because we don't go outside like we used to, but as you're describing that, that's just kind of what popped into my head.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Everybody knew everybody that was doing something with music. Like we already knew, like, oh, that's the dude. You know what I mean? Like we already knew. Everybody knew. It was, it was kind of a little popularity thing, Like he's not like everybody else. Like he makes music, He does this. Like he does this.
So in a sense, like people had to kind of be their own Instagram back in the day.
Oh hell yeah! Your own Instagram, your own Facebook, all that.
That's
You had to
super nifty.
actually have a phone book. You know what I mean? A book
I do
with
remember
numbers
that.
in it.
I definitely remember that.
Yeah.
It didn't
Or if
last
not,
long
you
though.
had a pager full of everybody's numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I had a pager for about a year, but then cell phones took over, so it was like kind of pointless to have a pager when I had a pager. But like, I do understand how it was with the phone book because I remember that shit where you had to like write down all your friends' numbers and whatnot. But like, so you're basically at that point you're running through the DJ stuff over time due to proximity, so you have access to it. You're just able to kind of pull it off. I guess you have a good ear for curation, given your ability to do all the different things you can do, working with Nunzio. So what kind of happens after you pull away from the dub for?
I just go into music mode. By this time, I already got my own setup, you know. So I start just pretty much crafting my own shit. Sitting in the house for hours and hours and just working on my shit. You know what I mean? And getting my shit right. And just recording a lot of music.
And then like, are you releasing it? Are you like, promoting it
I'm
or?
releasing it, but I'm not releasing it like I still have so much music that's unreleased that I just have. But it's like I don't know, I'm picky sometimes. So it's like I don't want to release everything all the time. And that was always a problem of mine.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. When I talk to engineers, one of the most interesting things I learned is that their big, or not so much engineers, but producers and beat makers, their biggest complaint to me is the number of what they consider to be classic albums that rappers never release. Just sitting there.
hmm
Perfect songs because like Mix 97 3B just is not exactly a hundred. And I totally appreciate that. I
Yeah.
personally am not that guy. I don't hear the difference in these mixes. Whether that's to my advantage or to my detriment, I don't know. I totally release shit that most people would not feel is releasable. But I respect the quality though, because I have not heard a bad sounding Figueroa song. They've all been really great. So like,
Thank you.
I definitely appreciate your attention to detail. Who are some of the people that inspire you as you're going through it, and like how does your like musical process work?
Um, it varies, as far as the process, but inspiration, I watch a lot of documentaries and different shit like that. And I listen to a lot of soul music, production wise. That's where that comes from. I just listen to a lot of soul music on my own time.
Right. So like,
So it's like, what happened?
no, keep going.
Oh yeah, no. So that's pretty much it. The process it varies. It's like my music is really in my mood, like how I'm feeling that day.
So like, do you like write lyrics? Put it all together, put the beat first, or it's just kind of random with it?
It's very random because I make beats. I ain't gonna front, I make beats pretty much every day. You know what I mean? As much as I can,
Right.
more so than writing. Writing I get ideas and just go into spurts and just start writing a bunch of shit down, and then I'll go back and put it together.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you just kind of write stuff and then piece it into songs after the fact.
hmm
That's super nifty to me. Um, so as you're going through like the 2010s, I guess that's kind of what's happening. You're just kind of running your own stuff. Do you like kind of like you get into graphic design at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and you kind of grow it? You grow this into more of a business, or is it
That was more out of necessity,
fair?
just because I needed artwork. But you know, I really studied on it and just kept practicing at it till I became good at it.
Right. So basically, at that point, you're just like a one man shop for producing music and putting it out there.
Yeah, I was at that point. I just didn't want to wait on nobody. I didn't want to do. I just wanted to just get it done. So
Right.
I figured if I learn the shit, I can just do it myself.
No, it definitely speeds it up. Um, so at that point, are you still doing albums? Have you started doing albums yet at this point? And like, when do you start touring?
About 2012, and it wasn't really touring. I went to London and a couple other places, but nothing crazy. That's what I'm saying. I didn't go super touring. I didn't. I wasn't crazy touring out there
Right.
like these other motherfuckers.
Do you want to tour, or is it like,
Yeah, I do, but time for me is not. You know what I mean? It's not on my side for that right this second. So yeah.
yeah, I can appreciate how that is. I guess it really has to work out in a situation. I understand it to not be the cheapest endeavor. Um, but like, so like as you're running that, so like, are you like putting out albums? When do you start like focusing from like mixtapes and kind of moving into like albums and such?
Basically, when as soon as I step out, I just start recording original music. And for the record, most of my mixtapes was a lot of original music. Only like the first couple early ones were like rapping over other rapping stuff.
Right,
And I did a lot of like me and Flacko. I was gonna say Dutch because I know him as Dutch Vega, but that's Flacko.
right.
Me and him did a lot of fucking mixtapes together as well before all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was dope too.
How did you
Pre Litty Bro shit.
how did you link up with Dutch?
I met Dutch through Sarah Connor. She brought him to the dub. Well, he used to come to the dub, and I just ain't know him yet. And then she took me to his crib one day, and I met.
Right. Um, I mean, I fucks with what the Littyyy Bros sounds like. I mean, I really like it. I really think the Rear View song is in my top 5 songs of 2021. I'm not even being hyperbolic. Your parts, his part, all of it. It's just a smash of a track to me. So like in all seriousness, I fucks with that track like a lot. Um,
Oh
so
yeah,
so I think it's cool that y'all like got together and linked up and made that. How did y'all get into the Littyyy Bros vibe?
yo, that was Dutch baby. That was his baby, and it was just like, yo, he had the idea. You know what I mean? And that shit was, and it was lit. You know what I mean? Pun intended.
Right.
That shit was lit.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, that was his idea, and I just ran with it. And me and him always been really good at making music together. You know what I mean? Throughout the years, so it was a no brainer for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Um. And so when do you start getting into like creating videos and stuff?
Littyyy Bros is actually when we really started experimenting, and Dutch invested into a lot of video equipment, and got the drone, and we shot a lot of that stuff ourselves and had like editors just edit it for us. And yeah, she was dope.
Yeah. No. I definitely appreciate those videos. I mean, like I've seen them all at this point. Working with Dutch on a show, you end up like kind of consuming a lot of his music and whatnot. But I really enjoy the vibe of it, and a lot of those videos look like yo. I kind of want to be there. Y'all look like you're having a real good time filming that shit.
And we are.
Um, so like when it comes to your like music and such, I saw that you released in 2021 like this really solid project. Like fuck, what's it called? God loves Jesse or Jesse something like that. I don't know.
God loves me.
Yeah, that's it.
Figueroa, God loves me.
Yes, that shit is like a really solid cohesive thing. And then there's like the follow up God saves me or something. And
Yeah, that's just a single.
I don't know, it feels like the perfect follow up to it though. Like the whole thing just like slaps really proper. Like, is that like your most recent work?
Yes.
So what kind of inspired that?
Um. Well, I just wanted to do some boom bap shit real quick again. And I had these beats for a long time from a brother named Schematics, and all those beats that are on the God Loves Me are produced by Schematics. And I was just in a different mode. I was just trying to write fucking straight bars, and that was really it. And God Loves Me is the concept of my IG was Jess's God.
Right.
So it's like God loves me. So it's like basically, you know what I mean? I love myself.
No, that's reflected too within like the sense of it. It's a good message. I like that. So like, what other kinds of stuff do you get up to with it? Like, what have you been up to since like the pandemic kicked in and whatnot?
Since the pandemic kicked in, I've been staying the fuck out the way, just producing, been in love for a little while. So I've been doing a lot of life stuff.
Nah, that's
Yeah,
congratulations. That's really cool.
thanks. But yeah, I've been chilling, man. And, you know, getting back to it, you know, just been getting my stuff back together, doing a couple little family things for the holidays. But January come, I'm back in full force, you know.
So what are some of the things you have planned?
Right now, I'm just working on getting this video done for that single, God Save Me. Then I'm gonna do some. Souls asked me earlier, but I was already thinking about doing some, probably an EP with Souls.
Hmm, that would be a really good thing to hear.
As an artist, I just want to get on some more stuff that I'm not producing. You know what I mean, and have somebody else produce it, and not just be the artist. You know what I'm saying?
Sorta. I have never produced my own song like that, so I've always just been the artist jumping on other people's stuff. What's the difference like for you? Like, what would make you feel more drawn to going down that
I
path?
think I think it's the freedom of just the beats already being already made. Because me, while I'm making my beats, like I can't write to my beats sometimes, and sometimes I'll write a whole song in 10 minutes, but then I want to change this and change that, and keep changing this and keep changing that, and I lose myself a lot when I'm doing my own shit. But if I'm working off of somebody else's production, it's like, all right, you know what I mean? Just give me the beat. You know what I'm saying? Let's go from there.
Right.
I
So,
don't have to worry about none of that production shit.
do you find like it impacts your ability to write a song when you're like,
Yeah, I think it gives me a different vibe. You know what I'm saying? It
right,
just gives me a different mood. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like for me, it's even weight lifted off. Like one thing I don't have to worry about. All I gotta do is worry about these verses.
right? So then that's an interesting point that the pressure of mixing and everything impacts the ability to write the song. Um, so like when it comes down to like what's coming next, like outside of music projects, do you have like other ambitions that you want to achieve as an artist?
Me?
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna I want to produce somebody. I want to produce somebody.
like find somebody young and like turn them into
Somebody
somebody.
younger to work with. Yeah. That's really what I want to do.
That's really cool. So like kind of create your own little dub system of people that you can sharpen the swords of.
Yeah. That's really my plan.
That's awesome. What are some of like your favorite memories from being involved with the dub?
Rock steadies. every summer, hosting rock steadies. We did that for a long time. I miss those.
You gotta explain to him
Yeah,
What do you mean?
most
what
of,
a rock steady is.
or
He's not.
even
He
if
Oh,
wouldn't.
oh,
even
I'm
if it's
sorry.
not
Yeah,
even
I'm
just
sorry.
me,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
keep forgetting.
everybody
I'm talking
else.
to him like he knows already. Rocksteady is an event that the Rocksteady crew been throwing for a long time. They're probably on their 50 something year at this point. And we used to host them. Well, EOW used to host them for about maybe 8, 9 years of that. And they would some of them were at some were at on the pier on the West Side Highway. Some of them were in Central Park. Some of them were in Jersey and Lincoln Square Park. And it was just this huge event where everybody would come. They would bring all the old school artists out. One year they brought Curtis Blow, like Big Daddy Kane, all the old school favorites. Then they have like a ton of B-boys, B-girls, and do a whole set. But that used to go on every summer.
Right.
So those is really, really dope.
And you got to host those?
Yes, I hosted a few of them. Hell yeah.
That's really awesome. And like, um, where can do you sell beats to people? Like, can people actually just buy your beats right now?
Nah.
Ooh, how come?
Because I do it I'd rather deal with them more direct. I don't want to just like sell beats.
So people have to find you and build that relationship with you in order to get to that point of being able to work with you like that.
For the most part, not for nothing, yeah.
I respect that. Um, and do you have any like albums or anything lined up in the future after the EPs that you have?
I'm chilling out. I'm seriously trying to find me an artist so I can produce because I'm really heavy on my production as of these days.
So really, it's just more like it's almost like that's the new direction for you, and so like that's gonna become the main focus moving forward.
Yes.
That's really cool. What like made you kind of decide to go down that path?
Um, I'm just tired, man. I'm good. I don't feel like rapping all the time. I used to want to rap 24/7. I don't want to rap all the time. I want to make beats all day though.
Hmm.
I want to produce all day. You know what I'm saying? I want to engineer.
So it's just more like, in a sense, your taste evolved into this kind of new vibe where it makes more sense for you to chase this. This is where the passion's at.
Yes. It's what makes me happy. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and I
Not
respect
that I
that.
don't love performing. Don't get it twisted. Not that I don't love performing. I love performing.
um, I get it though. Like things evolve over time, and sometimes what you loved when you're younger just like doesn't feel the same after a while. Maybe it's because it didn't work out the way you thought. Maybe because overall you kind of, everything has consequences you don't know about till you do it. And when you find out what the consequences of life is, sometimes you're like, it just doesn't feel worth it anymore. I kind of get that in a big way. Whereas you develop new skills and interests and things over the years. Like, I did not expect that I'd be sitting here talking to people on Zoom. Like, that is not really what I thought my life would end up kind of being. But yo, it's actually like fun. I derive a lot of enjoyment from hearing about other people's story from it. So like, I kind of get it, man. So like, interview thing kind of feels like that for me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's nothing sad, you know. I'm just good, you know. I'm happy, you know what I'm saying. I'm chilling, you know. So it's like it's just not where my heart's at right now, you know.
Nah, that's completely fair. I mean, the fact is, like, you've also got a ton of music if you want to keep releasing music from back in the day if you ever want to. And I'm pretty sure you could just come out with some new stuff any day if you wanted to. And who knows, maybe in 3 years you're going to be like, fuck it, I'm ready to rap again. Just step back into it and take over.
Yeah, And you know, when I say it, a lot of people like they looking at me with the evil eye now back there in the background. And it's just like, you know, I'm chilling. Everybody want me to rap. And it's like, you know, I gotta feel like it, you know. It gotta be in you, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you could do it mechanically, or you could just show
Yeah,
up
I'm
and clock
good.
it,
I'm
and
not, yeah.
it's just not right.
I'm,
I get it though. Like I get it completely with different things I've done in my life, where it's like I know I can physically go through the motions in doing it, but if I don't really desire to do it, it's not gonna be what it's supposed to be, and that's like really the issue. It's like to make it what it's supposed to be requires a love, and I don't know. I get it. I know that people might not like that. I totally appreciate that part too. I
and
mean,
I love it too, and I understand, you know, and I love all my fams, but you know,
I hear people get very excited at your name. I mean, I watched Big Ox's eyes light up very wide talking about you singing on some song he showed me. And like apparently that was a big deal. It was a tough sell for him. Um but like it's
love
cool.
that nigga Ox, man.
Yeah, he was a vibe. That guy's a vibe. I just stood
He's
outside
a
and
whole vibe.
I'm like
He's a whole vibe.
it was like the middle of the night. I'm not used to being up at 12 something in the morning with drunk people. You gotta understand that. This is not what my normal life is like. Plus, I'm in fucking Brooklyn. And like Poison Pen in them is showing up and whatnot. And I'm just gone. And this Big Ox guy is just talking to every girl that walks by. His volume is like 10 times my volume. His excitement for everything is just incredible. Like, I love the level of excitement that man had for everything, including you and your name.
That's oh,
But yeah,
that's oh.
it was cool. It was really dope to like be in that environment and like to meet real. Like I got to meet. It was by like the Vice mural down in wherever that tincture bar is.
Yep, Tatonkas.
Yeah, so we were there and
Right.
yeah, it was a cool vibe. I got to meet Dama as she was doing the bar thing. But nah, it's cool that you were kind of up to it. So I mean, is there anywhere that you would love to go perform if you had the opportunity to go anywhere?
Hmm. Yeah, anywhere that's not in America.
Like this is like literally anywhere.
Anywhere that's not in America.
I respect that. I'm certain it would be pretty easy to get you into Canada, given post these times in regular ass times. It would be pretty easy to
Right,
get you regular.
regular schedule.
It'd be pretty easy to get
Yeah,
you
I'd
up in
love to go to
Canada.
Canada.
Um, yeah, Montreal's a vibe. I don't know that it's a New York vibe, but it's totally a competitive vibe. It's just maybe not as good a vibe. It's definitely a competitive vibe. Um, and
Nah, we need a little change. I want to go up there.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's French though. That's definitely part of it, which is a whole other situation. But I enjoy. You know what I realized though? The one thing I have to say is, everybody speak more than one language in everywhere else, and then Montreal act like it's special to speak like whatever. It's just nobody speak French anywhere, and that's where it gets special. And I'm like, that's weird. You hear everything everywhere except French. and
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, do you have anything else you want to like share with the people out there?
Nah, man. Don't feed the animals.
I appreciate that. So yeah, man, it was really good to have you here. I appreciated learning about you, kind of hearing your story a little bit. Um, I've seen you rap a lot. I think this is the first time we've ever actually talked, so I'm glad that got to happen. I got to like at least have a digital face to face. I know it's not quite the same as the real life. Um, And it's cool to hear about you. And I really respect your passion to the craft and everything you bring to the table. And I really think, as far as the end of the week, everything, you are definitely a legend, man. The way everybody talks about you, it's just undeniable. Like, that's my status. Like, how do you determine what's a legend? Other people have to use words like that in abundance around you. And as far as this whole, nah, you like up there. Like, even in this fucking interview on the Zoom, I'm watching chats popping up. Jess is the most versatile guy out there. Jess is just the greatest. And I'm like, you're one of those guys where that is the impact you've left on people, man. And it's pretty incredible to see that. And you're just like mad humble about it. Just mad humble about it.
Yeah, it's hard for me, man. I appreciate it, man. I really do, man.
And I appreciate you coming through and giving us your time like that. And I appreciate End of the Week for hosting this, because without End of the Week, there's no perspective show. And honestly, it's made my life better. You know, it's kind of a flex. Yeah, I'm doing a show on End of the Week. That sentence hasn't hurt my life, is all I'm saying.
Pretty dope. Pretty fucking dope.
And so it's kind of cool that you get to help contribute to that as well. Thank you all who watched this live across wherever platform you're on, as it's in all the different places. Make sure to follow End of the Week on the various platforms, EOWTV or EODub.com, EODUB.com. Just go there. It's got links to everything. It's way simpler. And yeah, we'll be back, I think, next week with another one, and we'll be keeping this alive, and you will see more of us. They've got a bunch of other shows like the Beach Challenge, where they do the beat making things. Jesse's won at least one of the beat challenges, according to a verse I heard here and there. So that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I won the first season.
Definitely a winner over there as well. So you can like check that out. I know they got other stuff. I seen a cooking show at least once. Like there's stuff happening here. They're really making it big. They just did the $5,000 fucking contest with fucking diesel fragrances, where the homeboy Basics got to go down to New York, and while he did not win, he got to go down and rep the city and whatnot. So shout out to the Osiris guy who won, I think. And yeah, there's just a lot happening over there. Anyhow, appreciate all y'all watching and all that good stuff. Thank you again for being here, everyone. Everyone in the future, subscribe and whatnot. And yo, live long and prosper, everybody.